donation and mining family. What is going on? What up? What up? Coming right at you from the truck. Here we go. Woo! Good morning, all you awesome FA people. Yo. I am on my way to back to the school. This time not for class. Yo. Going to be helping them out. They got a whole bunch of ASICs in that they need help with. All that good stuff. Yo. So I see that we don't have anybody in, so I will wait here and ramble on to myself a little bit here. All right. Oh, those smart cars are so funny to look at. All right, here. Sit there, get some driving in before everybody starts piling in. I know it's a Saturday, so possibly not too many people be on this early in the morning unless you got work. Full tank of diesel, so I got about 300 miles that I can go. All right, getting my driving on. It's like so much easier once I get onto the highway because there's like, well, it's a Saturday, so traffic shouldn't be so horrible today. At least that's what I'm thinking. I could be wrong. I can already tell that traffic's a lot lighter this morning. So awesome, awesome. And whoever just popped on in, certainly smash that Lizzie like button, subscribe, hit the bell notification, all that good stuff, guys. So, it's kind of like waiting until I get on the highway before I start chizzity chatting. All right. Oh, man. It is too early in the morning. Holy cow. Stomp that loud pedal. Yeah. It's all about stomping that loud pedal. Going as fast as you can. I drive fast. I'm Ricky Bobby. Oh, too funny, too funny. Ah, we got somebody in the Chizzity chat. How are you doing this morning, F.A.? So, we shall get into the conversation then, since, so, as you guys know, I have been taking ASIC repair classes. With those ASIC repair classes, I'm looking for certifications. So, day one was just kind of learning how to do visual inspections with for S9s, and seeing learning how to read the kernel logs and all of that stuff for any kind of errors that you may see. Are you getting zero ASIC, some ASIC, all that good stuff, right? Being able to identify capacitors, resistors, diodes, transistors, PIC chips, EPROMs with PIC chips, your boost circuit, your boost chip, how the ASICs themselves basically operate with all, so on a S9 hash board, there are several domains. Each domain consists of 3 ASIC chips. So 3 ASIC chips per domain. So if you've got one of the ASIC chips not registering within a domain, it can be any or all 3 of those ASIC chips in that domain that might be having an issue. So you might see, let's say, ASIC chip number 60. You get 60 ASICs. So it sees 60 out of the 63 chips. And you're basically looking at checking that last domain. And remember that the two chips, the 2 or 3 chips that are not showing up could be the culprit, or it can be the last chip from the domain before that. So you're basically trying to hunt down and figure out where you broke connection, which can prove to be easier said than done. I had one of them. It had 3 different sections of the board that had chips that need to be reflowed, and it had some capacitors near the LDO that were out. Once we got we changed out the LDO capacitors that were blown on it, it still seemed to not give us all the ASIC chips. Definitely something in the board that's having an issue on that one. So that one became a no fix because no matter what I did, I've reflowed the chips. The diode test on the chip side was testing out fine. Still no RI signal. The RI is the communication signal. At the outer edges, I should have 2.2 volts. On the inner side, the inside of the inner chips that are not along the edge should be at 1.8. The board pretty much runs off of 1.8 volt. So it was pretty interesting to, you got zero ASIC, you just hunt around power, make sure you got your power outputs on there. You can sit there and check all of your power just to find out that you forgot to plug in your power supply, or you forgot to turn on your variable power supply for testing purposes. So, it's like you can go from something stupid to, oh, wow, there's multiple problems on here. I did pass the first section, though. The first week was all about basically orientating yourselves with the ASIC chips, being able to pull them off, put them back on, keep your values. The final exam was taking a hash board that did not have all the ASIC chips showing up and getting it to work, and having it work after you put the coolers back on. So I don't know if anybody's ever pulled apart an S9 before. For those who did, you're going to be a little bit more familiar with than others. So on the chip, on the hash board, there are there's coolers on the front side of the board and coolers on the back side of the board. Basically, they're trying to cool both sides of the chip as best as possible with the amount of constant power it needs it. So we're basically, I forget where I was going with this. So I'm like sitting here driving, paying attention to traffic. So it's like when you got zero ASIC, you're going to be sitting there hunting down power. After that, you're basically, if you've got some ASIC, you just sit there and you start measuring where you're losing your RI signal, and wherever the RI signal stops, that's usually the domain that's having issue, because if it's not communicating through all, go from the last chip to the first chip to complete the circuit. So if you're not getting RI signal through the whole board, it's not going to work. And if you got, it's like if you got a section that's out, depending on the board you're working on, like some S9s have LDOs, some don't. On an LDO board, it's a little easier to hunt down the power. On a non-LDO board, you're basically, it's ASIC chips that are going to have the issue, right? Oh, come on. Yeehaw! Sorry, guys. Just kind of going through intersections. Driving's more important than sitting here chit-chatting. Sorry. The one drawback of driving while doing this. So, yeah, like I was saying, so going through and, if you got zero ASIC, you're going to be hunting powers down. When you got some ASIC, at least you've got a starting point of where the signal's interrupted, right? So you can figure out what domain is like that. Now, not all the ASICs are set up this way. Take, for instance, the What's miners. They've got the aluminum PCBs on those, and you've got to do all of your ASIC work on a hot plate, because basically the aluminum is such an effective heat transfer that without putting in constant heat into the whole board, you'll never be able to get the solder to melt. So just kind of keep that in mind, people, if you are working on stuff that's aluminum backing on it, that you're trying to solder onto, that you need to apply serious heat. Just because of the the aluminum's good ability to basically wick heat away very effectively. Woo! I'm like cruising right through all the red lights making it through on the yellow. I got good timing. Yo! So, it's like as you're sitting there and, working on different hash boards and stuff like that, each one's going to be a little bit different than the others. The S19s are kind of interesting. They've got like cellophane over the top of the PCB to stop dust from getting into components. It's like kind of it's kind of cool that they've got the cellophane on there, and then they use thermal paste with the heat sinks on there. And don't just, if you're going to re-thermal paste one of these, If you're going to change the thermal paste on any one of these chips, you need to do it to all the chips. It's an all or nothing deal. Because like if you put thermal paste on there that's better than stock, you can have some ASIC chips running better than others where the temperatures are way different. Good God, truck. Can you go any slower on that? So, hold on, getting up onto the highway. Getting on the highway. Sorry, guys. I'm like wanting to get over a little bit, and I got somebody just fucking cruising. I'm doing like 80 down the highway, and this person's like passing me. There we go. It's like 80 miles an hour down the highway is a good speed, especially when the speed limit's 65. Of course, I haven't been really going much faster than 80 down the highway to begin with. So yeah. And then a couple days ago, we started doing the diagnostic stuff, learning the test equipment. Pretty cool stuff. That you plug in some power, and you plug in the test jig, and you basically press go, and it'll open up the MOSFETs, allow power to go through the MOSFETs to start creating your 1.8 volt and your 3.3 volt. I mean, a lot of this stuff, you're going to be basically looking at the same stuff in a lot of your other components. So, you know, it's like you're basically looking at a lot of the same similar circuits in every device. That's, you know, you're able to sit there and keep something plugged in, but it's off, right? It's because it hasn't been commanded to open up the MOSFETs, and as long as the MOSFETs don't open up, your hold on here, gotta grab my iPass. So as long as the MOSFETs don't open up, you've got no the device won't turn on without the MOSFETs allowing it, unless the MOSFETs are damaged, and then that's a whole different story, right? Oops, sorry. The whole driving thing with one hand. So, yeah, it's like, and now, since yesterday was final exam, I had a board that was, from the day before still whooping my butt. And I just moved on. I was like, fuck this. I have to be able to get my exam done. So in order to do an exam and get it finished, I've got to diagnose an hash board, pull the heat sinks off, put the heat sinks back on, or I say pull the heat sinks off, do the repair, and then put the heat sinks back on. That's a full repair. And I was having an issue with the ASIC disappearing after I put the back plate on, because the way that you attach the coolers onto an S9 hash board is the back one is soldered on, and that's soldered on to ground, guys. So you cannot let the back plate coolers touch each other. They will short out the next chip. It's not a common ground on it. It is individual grounds for each chip. And you cannot, if you let metal touch the backside of the PC, touch the backside of the card or the board, it will short out. It will Guaranteed, man. 1.8 volt flying around like not going to have a good time. And so, I mean, you could touch it with your hand. Your hand is fine, but you don't want to do metal to metal. That you will fry components out very easily. You cannot put the magic smoke back in, fellas. Once the smoke's out, it's done. And then you can't work the PCB too much, especially near the edge. If you're near the edge of the board, because all that heat you're putting in, 400 to 430 degrees Celsius. That is serious heat, guys. That is enough to melt solder. So if you can sit there and melt metal, think about everything else that you can melt. You know, you can blister your board, separate your layers, burn it, discolor it, all the stuff you do not want to do to your PCB. You could certainly easily do to a hash board, trying to pick and pull parts off of there. You got to make sure that your hot air gun is not is at a good distance away from the component so that you don't knock a component off the PCB. The problem is like if you angle your hand a little bit and through a microscope, you're going to be looking at the top side of your hot air gun, right? And that could be at a proper height. And because your hand is tilted off to the side a little bit, you're now looking at the back side of the hot air gun is now lower than what you can visually see. And what that does is it means that you can accidentally scrape across the PCB and knock capacitors and resistors and stuff like that clean off the board. That was like day 1, day 2 problem for me, that I was having that issue. Not so much now. Now I've got more confidence in holding on to that hot air gun. You definitely want to be ambidextrous. But whenever you're sitting there and you get the 63 ASIC back, though, and you've done all that, you haven't knocked any components off the board, you're doing good, right? You've now got to put the coolers back on. Now, putting the coolers on is pretty damn easy, right? The front cooler is glued on with thermally activated glue. It has a really good thermal interface on there. Not as good as solder, but decent. I mean, as we all know, we've seen that, the S9s has been the pinnacle of Bitcoin mining for quite some time, people. Quite some time. So with that, it's like, we know that the system it works very well, right? So I was you go to solder on the back of it, and the first 2 coolers I put together on my hash board, no problem. Tested it, 63 ASIC. Put the next one on, tested it, 63 ASIC. Put the last one on, test it, 62 ASIC. So I pull the cooler back off, 63 ASIC. I'm like, what the hell's going on here? And I go to put the chip back on, 62 ASIC. I'm like, son of a. And I'm trying to figure out why is it whenever I solder on the heat sink, do I lose the ASIC? And he's like, well, maybe you're putting too much heat into it. And I'm like, I'm sitting there looking at the edge of the chip until I see it bubble. Once I see a single bubble come out from the back side of the cooler as I'm soldering it back on, I pull it away and started blowing on it, right? Trying to cool it down fast. And I'd still lose it. So I replaced the chip. After gluing the front one on twice, I replaced the chip and diode test it. The diode tests good. I plug it in. I get 63 ASIC. I'm like, cool, we're good. I put the back cooler on, 62 ASIC. I'm like, fuck this. I'm walking away for a moment here. This is getting frustrating. I'm not pulling this off a third time. So I walked away for a few moments, let the hash board cool down to the touch. So now the hashboard is like, I can touch it, I can put it on my face, and all that stuff, right? I go to test it, 63 ASIC. I'm like, I wonder if it's just doesn't like the extra added heat on there. So and the front cooler is thermally activated. So I warm it up. I put the glue, the thermally activated glue on there, and set the cooler on. Now, that thermally activated glue is freaking wild to play with. If you've never played with thermally activated glue, guys, it's interesting. So I warm up the chip just a little bit, not hot, just warm it up enough to, like you're trying to scrape the glue off. And then you take this glue, and it's not like a glue like you would normally see it. It looks like kind of like between a clay and a putty, right? That's how it starts off. And with the warm chip, when you put it on there, it melts. I was like, oh, that's kind of cool. And you paint a square with inside of a square. What that means is that you're going to sit there and you're going to put the cooler down onto it after you paint a slightly smaller square than the ASIC chip itself. In other words, you've got like a small little gap between the thermally activated glue and the edge of the chip itself. You don't want to bring the glue all the way to the edge of the chip because when you heat it up, it's going to smear out, right? And then that's when you go in and attack it with some heat. You take the hot air gun again, and you put the cooler down onto the chip, and you start warming up the cooler. And you're going to sit there with the tweezers and just giving it like little itty bitty, teeny tiny taps. Bro, if you've never tried to tap something that's balancing, you should know that you can sit there and blow on it like you're blowing a candle and it falls off, okay? With that being said, you're going to be doing these world's smallest little taps, and you're watching the cooler kind of wiggle, right? And as you're sitting there and you're putting heat on it, and you're like tap, 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 tap. And then one of the times you tap, and the cooler does not move. And you pull the heat away immediately and let it set. And then once it sets, it's nice and cool. Like, you don't want to mess with it when it's hot still, because even though the glue's set, because it's hot, it's brittle, and you can easily knock it off. So you let it cool back down, and once it's cooled down, it becomes one with the chip until you heat the cooler back up and get the glue to separate. But you can't get it to stick a second time. It's a one-time use thermal activation. But whenever you do take it off, you take it off with some heat, it releases the bond, and then you put some more heat onto the chip and you clean the glue off the chip and do what you need to do to everything. That thermally activated glue is absolutely something wild. I've never seen anything like it before. Pretty cool to play with, though. I do have to admit that. I could sit there and, like, now that I'm getting a little bit better with being able to pick up an ASIC chip and set it down, properly positioned, get my diodes tested back in. Now it's just a matter of just building up the between the confidence and the skill set. I'm not going to even say that it's like I pretty much know everything that I'm going to need to know to do the S9 repairs. It's just now that I've got to have the hands-on experience, and that's where, it's all about skill, right? I could teach you guys everything you need to know about automotive, but it doesn't mean that you're going to be able to do diagnostic or be able to repair something without breaking something else, right? So, anytime you're getting into something new, there's going to be that learning curve. You're going to break something. It's inevitable. You will damage something. And when you're, and just kind of realize it, own it. Don't be like, oh, it's this. It's because of this. No, you're a noob. You're a rookie. And you know what? Shit happens. Sometimes you will break stuff, and it's okay. And it's like when you're looking at stuff that breaks, it gives you an opportunity to tinker around with it. If you broke it beyond all repair, hopefully you're breaking stuff that's old enough to, the replacement of it is cheap. That's why if you're going to be doing any kind of, you want to learn micro soldering and you've got a hot air station and you've got a microscope, pick up a junk S9 board off of eBay and just practice pulling parts on and off of it. The testers are pretty expensive, guys. The tester that I want to use is about a $1,200 tester. My equipment alone that I have, I've got a quick hot air station that's about $500-600. I've got a Hakko FM 203 soldering station. That was about $550. So I mean, I've already got $1,000 worth of equipment, over $1,000 worth of equipment, and I need a microscope. So I'll be over $2,000 in equipment when it's all said and done. I need a test jig that'll put me over $3,000 in equipment for doing repairs. So it is pretty expensive to set up your own repair, your own repair business. I'm not shy about it at all because of my automotive stuff. Being a master mechanic, I've got over $100,000 in tools. If you were to try to buy all the tools I have in with my toolbox, you'll be clean over $100,000 right up. So I mean, it as they say, it takes money to make money. Kind of keep that in mind if you're wanting to get into it. I mean, you could probably find some cheaper microscopes, but again, you want to have the best tool possible to do your job. The better your tools are, the easier it is for you to do your job, right? Instead of having to make do. Some people can make do. I mean, it's like, how can I put it? Getting a cheap microscope for this is the equivalent for me working on jack stands in my garage, right? Although it works, working on jack stands will work, it's so much nicer to be able to get a car onto a lift and bring your working environment up to standing height. This way you're not hunched over, laying on the ground, sitting down all the time, because every time you sit down, you got to stand back up. And, you sit down and stand up during a work day 500-600 times. You start getting really tired. There's only so much that you're going to be able to effectively do, right? Until you're plumb wore out, knees are all messed up or whatnot. Man, these cops have been out like crazy. Holy cow. Wow, that cop is like zooming. That cop is going after somebody today. He got somebody. He's like, got him. I wonder who the hell he's going after, because he's just been cruising with his lights on. Oh, got him. That guy just passed me up too. That's what you get for doing 90 down the highway. 90 down the highway, weaving traffic, not smart. People wonder why I'll do 10 miles on the highway. I do 10 to 15 miles an hour over the speed limit. Any cop wants to sit there, pull me over for it, whatever. I've been driving like this for many, many years. And I've been told by sheriffs that you're more than likely not going to be messed with as long as you're not flipping more than 15, 20 miles an hour over the speed limit. For the love of God, especially if you're in Illinois, do not go above 30 miles an hour over the speed limit. 29 miles an hour is your absolute limit. Why? At 30 miles an hour over the legal limit, it's a felony. So, with that being said, just kind of, I don't know about your guys' area, but yeah, these bridges suck. Definitely make sure that you're not going so egregiously over the legal limit of driving that you guys get a felony. Small misdemeanors, cops are probably going to be like, that's the only thing he's doing. He's just kind of cruising along. As long as you're not weaving traffic in the middle of it, cops are more than likely going to leave you alone. As soon as you start flipping 20 miles an hour plus over the speed limit, weaving traffic, oh, you're going to get rickrolled, bros. So it's been, this whole class has been, getting back on topic, this whole class that I've been taking has been an amazing experience. I'm so glad that I got the opportunity to do this. Freaking like a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity for sure. Classes are expensive, but well worth every dollar. The people from Oklahoma, unfortunately, just couldn't get it. So I don't know what I hope that he didn't spend $2,700 just to fail the class. That's an expensive I failed class. It's not like college where, college class might cost you $150, $200, and a few months worth of your time. Versus this is a 1 week class for $2,700. And the guy's has his own, he's mining out of his business, which is cool. And he took the class underneath the right thought of, hey, I'm going to take this class and we are, learn how to repair the equipment that I own. Noble thought. That's some of the reasons why I took the class. But if you've got little to no experience doing this, as this guy found out, really, really rough. Super rough to be doing this stuff. So, unfortunately, some people learn a valuable lesson of, you sometimes you bite off more than you can chew. If you've never done something before, sometimes you want to take some basic classes before you start taking more advanced classes. Even though it's the ASIC repair class is a beginner class, because it's consolidated into a 1 week time frame. If you don't have basic soldering skills, don't do this, guys. You learn to crawl before you walk, right? So learn how to take components on and off with a pair of tweezers and stuff like that. I mean, it'll shock you on how much a little bit of practice goes a long way. The only thing I didn't do, and I wish I kind of did do before I got involved with the class, was basically doing a little bit of practice work with my hot air station and and picking stuff on and off with just a set of tweezers, and getting used to that. I think that would have been a pretty damn helpful for me, but not necessarily the end all be all thing. But it would have made a whole lot of difference. Make even more of a difference, even if I had a cheap microscope to learn how to do some microscope work. Microscope work is really weird. Some people, like the microscopes we had over there during the classes, were some really nice ones. Oh my God, like $1,000 microscope that had camera into it, so you can pipe the microscope onto a screen. I like it, and then again, at the same time, I don't like it. I can't look up and away to do my micro soldering. Some people can do it. I'm not one of them, people. My brain does not know how to operate if I'm not at least semi-looking down at my hands. I have learned my whole life, outside of guitars, right? Guitars are the only thing that I've been able to play. Guitars and drums. So musical equipment I can play with my eyes closed. To a point. Like strumming a guitar. I don't need to look at my hand and know how to do it. But I'll look at my left hand because I got to know where to put those onto the strings, right? Drums. I can close my eyes and play the drums. I know where my drum set is. But when it comes down to sitting there and working on a microscope, I can't look up and away from my hands. I don't know why. My brain was just like, help me. I'm challenged. I don't know why. It was the goofiest fucking thing in the world to be like, I can't do this. What's wrong with me? I mean, on top of you put your hands underneath the microscope and it looks like I got cerebral palsy. I'm shaking so bad. It's like, hold your hand still. No. You know? That's exactly how it was. Like, hey, brain, can you hold your hand still? Absolutely. Today, I don't think we're going to be doing any kind of soldering work. I think we're going to be doing like organization. What up, D-Mining? What up, people? I wish the chat would stay up a little bit longer. Hey, it's like, you left really early this morning. Yes, I did, babe. Yes, I did. Glad to see you started working, bro. Keep at it. Yeah. Yep. After 3 years, I finally have a job, I guess. And taking classes, learning stuff. It's been a lot of fun doing all this stuff. So now I think we're going to be going in and doing some organizations and stuff like that. Figuring out what's broken, what's not broken. They got a whole pallet of S9 hash boards. If you think people are not using S9 Bitcoin miners from Bitmain, they're still being used, guys. They're still being sold. It is still the de facto standard of the industry. Yes, there are more efficient hardware out there, but the price of per capital. So if you've got cheap enough power, you can run S9s without an issue. You're still profitable. You know, if you're sub 6 cents per kilowatt hour all in, you could still be mining with an S9. You start getting at, above that 6 cents per kilowatt hour, you're going to probably want some more efficient hardware. The older hardware is not going to be as viable for you, especially if you're using what it's mining to at least pay for the electric bill. Because that's basically what you're going to want to see, is it pay for the electric bill. So, I mean, yeah, I think I'm gonna have some fun today. It's like the guys that work there, super kickback, relaxed. Scott Oxford is one hell of a cool dude, and I'm thankful for the opportunity he is giving me. The he has for me, basically being part of his team. So I'll be basically, doing some work up over there today. I think they are getting ready to go to Miami to Mining Disrupt. I wish I could go to that, but unfortunately, no. But I think they're getting ready for that. So I'm not sure if they're leaving out this week or next week. I forget exactly when Mining Disrupt is. I think it's next weekend. I don't remember. Gundy might know if he's still if he's in the chat. When Mining Disrupt. I can't look it up. I'm on my phone driving down the highway. So it's been pretty fun to sit there and do these classes. Like I said, I highly recommend it. If you are super new to soldering of any sort, take some basic electronic repair classes. It will make your life much, much, much easier. Let's see here. I just got to get in front of these couple of people here. Shift over. All right. Carvana. Those tow trucks look freaking hilarious. How Carvana tow trucks look. All right. I'm thankful that it's like getting here. It's like it's all highway. It's still an hour on the highway, but you know, the highway certainly is shitty. It's bad enough I got a bad tire, but man, this highway sucks too. Coming into a tunnel. There we go, past the tunnel. Woo! All right, here we go. So, yeah, it's been a blast doing all of this stuff, like I was saying. If you guys are wanting to do it, take some micro solder. You take some basic electronic repair classes at your local college. It will make a massive difference if you want to do ASIC repair classes of any sort. You know, before you spend almost $6,000 to be level 2 board certified, Bitmain certified to do ASIC repairs. I mean, that's basically what you're going to be walking away with after your level 2 certification. You are basically Bitmain certified. And when you're Bitmain certified, you're able to get all the stuff that you are needed from Bitmain to do the repairs on there. Without that certification, Bitmain won't touch you. They don't even want to hear what you're doing, who you are, without a certification. And Bitmain used to have classes in Atlanta, Georgia. No more. There's no more directly Bitmain classes. It's now being dealt with through people like Scott Oxford. He's not the only one, but he's one of the big proponents for doing the classes and such. Why is that semi-truck in the far left lane like a schmuck? It's like, that's the time where you need to see a cop. Because that's illegal to drive in the left lane, you slow truck. Alright, so we are getting close to the facility now. Oof. Alright, guys, well, I'm actually getting really close to where I need to be. So with that being said, I'm going to sign out right here. Getting near some traffic here. So, yep, I'm gonna let you guys go. Thank you everybody for hanging out. Certainly, thank you for being here. All that good stuff. Like, subscribe, smash the bell notification. All of that good stuff, fellas. I appreciate everyone being here. I wish I could take some questions. I will definitely go live tomorrow and all of that good stuff. So stay tuned for that. I can't end the stream while I'm in like the middle of a turn. Ugh. I got to get out of this turn. All right, now I can end it. So thank you everybody for being here, all that good stuff. Peace out, stay savage, and I'll see you on the next one.